Hey, Corey.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, this is exciting to get back together again and do yet another training. This one, the IGFT, otherwise known as the I Group Facilitation Training with you. I really am excited to do that dance again with you.
It's so much fun working together with you, and I love the container that gets created with you and me and a bunch of other returning staff men who've done this training before, and then new guys who come in and just light up with how they're able to find deeper gold inside themselves, and then turn around and help that and offer that to another man. That just blows my mind.
That's a great, very succinct summary. But yeah, the training where it used to be at was for men that don't have a lot of facilitation skills to come and learn how to basically love on another by facilitating them to a whole new place of understanding of themselves and the world.
That's right.
But what I've seen over the years is it really has begun to develop into a place where men get to dig inside of themselves and really find out about some of the shadowy stuff they uncovered at their New Warrior training adventure, but go way deeper and with greater exploration of what it does for them and what it doesn't do for them in this world of shadows.
Yeah. So in this video, guys, we're going to, a little later on, we're going to walk you through 5 different facilitation processes that are super powerful and actually not that hard to run once you know how to do it.
And especially, we talked a little bit about this. You know, I've got a bit of a framework for what I want to talk about today with you, but I'm going to go off script a lot. It just allows me a foundation that I can drop back on at any point where I feel like I need to kind of refocus myself. And there's some of that in this training as well. Learning these 5 incredible facilitation processes are quite reasonably easy to run, and especially easy if you've got this framework in your hand or behind your back that you can always fall back on if you get stuck, which is not uncommon. I've been stuck a bunch of times. I've had to call on others to help, and that's also part of the training, learning to ask for help and support one another and enroll support. So there's some great stuff around those 5 processes as well.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing this for quite a while, Phil. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I think I took the training itself probably 10 years ago. I went through the NWTA in 2003, and so I've been around for a little over, 20 years now, coming up on 22 years, I guess. And been on leader track, been on all kinds of other tracks. I'm a co-leader on the NWTA trainings. And I, about probably 10 years ago, took the IGFT and then was so taken by it that I learned to facilitate it. I learned how to lead the training. And I've been doing that for probably about 7 years. And likely I've done about probably 15 of them now. And I just get more and more excited with it every time I do one with yourself. And we did one in Ottawa for a huge group of men. It was probably about 40 or 50 guys. Super exciting and super great to see the look in the men's eyes at the end of the weekend after they've learned a few tricks and they've learned a whole bunch about themselves as well. How about yourself? What brings you to the project and what brings you to the IGFT?
Yeah. Well, I'm Corey Bretz, and I came into the project in 1999, and I've lost track of the number of events and circles and weekends and things that I've been involved with, and I think what I love is is that very intimate, charged, sweetly charged, attentive space that exists when 2 men or 3 men or a whole circle of men focus on helping one man, and I so love that. I love that aha moment when the man working, you can just see he takes a breath and there's some kind of deep body response where he's actually finally understood something that he's never understood, or he's totally forgotten and buried. It just the light that comes pouring through him. I'm a trained spiritual coach, and it's all about reconnecting with the inflow of energy that's coming to all living things, right? And for so many men, they walk around with blocked off, walled off from that energy, wondering why they feel like crap, right? so I just love that. So I'm on the board of MKP British Columbia. I been a founding member of Dark Horse Men's Group. We've been running for years now, and I'm also now the I Group coordinator for British Columbia. So for me, I get a huge charge out of helping guys in our local I groups gain the skills to be helpful to each other, more importantly to themselves. And so that's kind of why I'm here.
Some guys just light up. They get an aha moment. And a lot of times that's magician guys. They see a whole nother way, a perspective at some belief they've been holding for a number of years. And we're going to touch on that a lot throughout the training, what it means to bring your lover to facilitation, your warrior, your magician, and your sovereign to facilitation, and how you need to maintain fluidity and bandwidth as you do those things, as you facilitate different energies. Like very simply, the difference between facilitating someone who is back in their past, maybe 5 years old, is a whole different energy than someone who is in the present moment trying to get some toxic belief out of themselves, which is way more warrior. So yeah, it is beautiful to see. And I think that gets downplayed in a lot of other trainings where it's all about warrior. This is, I believe, a lot more balanced through all those four core quadrants, and learning to facilitate men who are in those quadrants and your facilitator who's in your quadrant.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so matching up, managing, and blending those archetypal energies. We also teach skills at this IGFT training, things like how to listen, how to speak, how to sort of open up avenues, how to tear down things that are blocked, how to use mindful interruption, how to deepen the process, how to verify and clarify. Even more importantly, I think, is how to ask questions that actually work, powerful questions, right?
Yeah, you brought up the word mindful interruption, which is not a common expression out there. And the concept there is we are going to start the weekend in Lover Energy on the Friday evening. And Lover Energy is so incredibly important to connection and building trust with the container first, and then with a man that you're about to potentially facilitate. And mindful interruption is a way of continuing to, some people, I know I used to think listening was just about me sitting there with not saying anything and just nodding I remember doing it for like an hour and a half with a father-in-law eons ago. It wasn't listening at all. I wasn't even engaged. So mindful interruption is a way to keep listening from this thing, not just from these things. Mm-hmm. So that's where the weekend will start. Lover Energy, lots of listening skills, because I think a huge part of facilitation is actually hearing a man's truth, understanding where he's coming from.
Before we jump in and start explaining some of these processes and the power of them, let's just talk a little bit about what the participants get to do on the weekend. It's not just us running this thing, right? It's the guys who show up creating this thing, right?
Totally.
What we know about iGroups is that we're creating a container, a sacred container that is sweet enough and soft enough, but also powerfully strong at the same time in order to hold the energies. And it's a creative process that involves the mind, the heart, the material, and it's a collaborative process that goes on between all the guys in the group. So we consciously come at that. And I have seen such beautiful processes and rituals that have been created. It just makes me cry and laugh and sing and dance, I
don't know if it's true for you, but I remember when I first was involved, back in the 2000s, there was all this awe about these incredibly charismatic facilitators that just knew what to do and where to go. And we're going to bust up a little bit of that. It is about collaboration. It is about being a team. There are some guys that are going to play defense. There are some guys that are going to be forwards. There's a goalie. And every one of those is absolutely vital to creating the container that can hold a man who finally trusts enough to step out in the middle of the circle and do his work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to downplay a little bit of that charismatic superstar, that Wayne Gretzky. We're going to downplay the Wayne Gretzky.
Wayne Gretzky of men's group facilitation.
What was his enforcer? Semenoff or something like that? Cement? Anyway, every role on the team is vital, not just Wayne. There's a good Canadiana for you.
Yeah, it's a hockey analogy there. Shoots, he scores.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the 5 innings then, or the five skills we're gonna the 5. I don't know what's the analogy here. So we got five processes.
As you introduced beautifully, first night is just going to be about learning how to set up containers and bring spirit into the room as well. You talked about that a little bit, that there's energy in this world that will guide me as a man being facilitated and will also guide me as a man facilitating. And it's important that we open ourselves to that and become a conduit for that. Otherwise, the pressure on me becomes extraordinary. So that's what the first night is all about. And then we start to launch into usually the easiest process first. And I think it might be the one that most men are at least somewhat familiar with. It's called Man in the Mirror. You know, Carl Jung, who created a lot of the work we do, said you can uncover shadow. And I think he identified about 7 or 8 different ways. One of the ways that he thought was quite important was who stirs you up in the world. So Donald Trump comes to my mind immediately, and I'm sure to a lot of others. But there's all kinds of other people, too. There's Dad. There's Justin Trudeau. There's just an endless ream of people that you go, you can feel yourself getting closed off.
Well, and it happens in our own personal relationships, our loved ones, our spouses, our friends,
totally,
you know.
Totally,
so yeah, it doesn't have to be Donald Trump, but it's the same phenomenon.
And the benefit is I get to look at Donald Trump, and instead of waiting around for him to change so that I can have the world that I want, I look at what is it that I'm creating inside of me when I look at Donald Trump, and how can I change and take the power back and have the world that I truly want, whether he does whatever he does or doesn't. So it's empowering. I learn about my shadow, some of what I don't want to see in myself that's out there in Donald Trump. And I take back the power of creating my reality rather than being a victim to him creating my reality.
Yeah. So much power. The times that I've used this process personally as the man working, I have felt absolutely powerful after the process, and when before the process I felt helpless and weak and like a victim.
I think that's one of the big things that the IGFT brought to this somewhat familiar process to most men, because it's a lot like a clearing. But the big part of it was reclaiming your power. And there's a few steps in the IGFT process that really does that and accentuates that power, reclamation.
So what's another of the 5 processes that we're going to be covering that weekend?
The next one that we do on the first night is called Look Who's Talking. It's might be familiar to guys who've been around for a long time, because it used to be called dialogue chairs. And it's about separating out, like every one of us has inside of me, I have a judge, an archetype that I would call the judge. He's very critical. He's very judgmental. And so if I am finding that I have an issue in front of me, and there's this voice on one shoulder saying one thing, judging me or judging somebody else, and on the opposite shoulder, there's another voice saying something pretty close to 180 degrees opposite. Maybe it's the little boy, the playful little boy archetype. This is an opportunity to get those out into the room, have them be energized as entities, which they really are, and let that conversation unfold between the man in his sovereign place, having a chance to speak to these. This is where they get to one side or the other and they go, oh my God, that's how I've set this up. And I'm getting goosebumps just seeing it, because I'm a bit of a magician, and that's what I get when I do Look Who's Talking.
Yeah, this Look Who's Talking process for me has, there's been more times in my life than I can count that I have been so conflicted that I am stuck. It's analysis. What do they call it? Paralysis by analysis, right?
Right.
And I'm literally I'm a pawn in the middle, and there's all these characters in my head that all have different opinions, and I am literally stuck. And eventually, what happens is I start to get physically ill.
Well, these entities can create illness and certainly dis-ease,
Yeah.
In the first start, but they can also be sabotaging me. If the judge isn't being heard or the little boy isn't being heard, they start to act out in ways. And it's surprising that I'm not aware of it until I get them out in the room and I talk to them both. It is incredible.
And then it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the most powerful piece of it is then deciding how to use those characters and then go out into the world with a clear, or at least a compromise between those characters that have been in conflict and go forward.
It's totally incredible what does happen. Sometimes I've seen those characters actually get to know one another finally. They didn't even realize they were together inside of me. So they have a somewhat of a conversation between themselves as well, and come up with some agreements. So all kinds of great magic comes out of this process. Yeah, inner child comes in as another great process. My gosh. Allows a chance to go back in a very safe way to something that happened to instill a belief in me that I've held for decades as absolutely the truth, when it probably isn't the truth.
Exactly.
And it's certainly not a truth that's supporting me anymore in being the man that I want to be.
Yeah. And this process is perfect if and we all have these things. We call them ongoing issues. They're the things that we make resolutions about. They're things we write down commitments about, and we always screw up. Why? Because deep down, there is this little child that is still stuck in that trauma from way back, and then automatically living out like a robot, this dysfunctional behavior to try to keep itself safe. And it doesn't work when we're modern men anymore. So, for me, this is one of the most significantly powerful processes, because that child of mine still runs my life if I ignore it. And so this process builds a muscle of being able to go back and nurture and care for that child and partner with it, because it's the most primal, powerful, creative energy in me, and I need that, So I just love this process.
There's a lot of energy wrapped up in these shadowy beliefs that as soon as I get awareness of them, because I may not even be aware since age 5, I'm not even aware that I was running this I'm not enough something belief, or I'm too much something belief. Just the fact that I get awareness of it, all of a sudden it releases a bunch of energy that I can choose to use however I believe is important for me to bring to my life today.
Yeah. And this process, because we're going back to early childhood, often trauma, we are very conscious. We're not going to tell you now, but we actually teach you how to avoid re-traumatizing the person, the man, help to prevent that man from re-traumatizing himself. It's an absolutely brilliant technique that we use to help the man focus on the messages he took on about himself and the emotions that were stuck back then, but from his modern, balanced, powerful perspective rather than that little child's point of view. And what it does is it brings them together without taking them back into that wounded moment, and so that's useful because a lot of guys, when in the warrior or the magician round in an eye group, somebody says, okay, who can facilitate? A lot of guys won't put their hands up because they're terrified of hurting the man who's about to do it, because they don't know how to deal with this. We're going to teach you how to help him stay safe.
Yeah, I'll just add one more point to that, and that is that these processes that we teach have been designed that you can run them from start to finish without having to worry that you're going to go off in some chaos somewhere and swallow it up in a vortex of nightmare. That's not going to happen. These are designed to help men to start to learn how to do that and get better and better at bringing it from their insides, from their intuition as well.
Well, yeah, the Mankind Project is coming up on its 40-year anniversary shortly, and these processes have been hammered out by about 80,000 men around the world. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do this stuff. Just read the script.
Read the script and be loving, be careful, be respectful. All those things. These are also great. This one in particular helps with doing guts work, and that's not the intention. But when you learn some of these processes, this one in particular, it does help your carpet work when you're involved as staff on an NWTA. But that's not the intention. It's just a side benefit. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the other two processes.
Yeah. Symbol extraction. That's another one that's hugely powerful for your guts work on the NWTA. Symbol extraction is one of those ones that's perfectly safe, especially for someone that may have had a history of trauma, to not have to know. We don't need to know any of the story. We just know that a guy's got some toxic energy from that experience as a 5 or 6 or 8 or 12-year-old that's stuck inside of him. And it's just about getting it out in a very, very physical way so that he can make a change in how his body is organizing energy within him. And then he gets a choice to put something back in there that is going to serve him to a much greater degree.
Yeah, this symbol extraction process is beautiful for the people that can't experience this self-growth change unless their body experiences it also.
This one's definitely about physically getting something moved inside of me and transformed into something that's more effectively supporting who I want to be.
Yeah. And then the last process, some will call this the hardest process. And it's kind of the remedy to walking around always doubting oneself, a lot of self-recrimination, a lot of, worthy issues, stuff like that, called owning your gold.
It's such a great process. I used to have energy against it because I think I struggle like many men in owning my joy.
Yeah.
Like it's a deep shadow.
Sure. It's dangerous.
Yeah. So it's a great way to celebrate some of what I have been in the past, to go back in the past and find all the gold that I had exuding from me in certain instances and bringing that forward. A lot of our work is about going back and finding the shadow, but this is about going back and finding all of those virtues that you have experienced in moments of absolute bliss and not letting them just be past remnants, bringing it forward and applying it to your life today. Even summoning it, consciously summoning it when you
practicing summoning it.
Practicing summoning, yeah.
When you getting that muscle
and maybe bringing it more and more and more to every day. Yeah. It's a wonderful again, something brand new that this training brought to the MKP world, mining your gold. It's just an incredible concept. This training gets you to understand at least 5 significant ways that I've been carrying baggage, and to release that and then have the ability to make some choice of whether I'm going to carry this bag and this bag and this bag for decades more is so empowering.
IGFT is happening March 28th to 30th, 2025 in Black Creek, British Columbia, just south of Campbell River. We actually will be on a beautiful farm where you'll get to meet some lovely farm animals and then some other warriors too. It's going to be fabulous. We're hoping that guys arrive at about 5 p.m., be ready to go. And the weekend will conclude and you should be out the door somewhere between 3 and 4 p.m. on Sunday, March 30th. We do have accommodations for some men. It's a big room with a concrete floor. And so if you need, bring your sleeping gear and we can set you out on the floor, and you'll be very, very comfy there.
Yeah, some kind of a sleeping pad as well, because that concrete floor is cold. So make sure to bring something a little larger that insulates you against that cold concrete. So yeah, we're going to be asking men to bring healthy, nutritious snacks for themselves. We'll provide things like coffee and tea and water, and then we'll come together for lunches and the Saturday night dinner and do something communally where we all chip in, and I don't know, get pizza or get Subway sandwiches or something like that. Something reasonably nutritious, but certainly augment that with your own personal needs for, well, we will bring some bananas and oranges and other nutritious snacks like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we've got tickets on sale until Thursday, March 27th at midnight for the training that starts the very next day on Friday. For the participants, the fee is $275 Canadian. And if you are a previous attendee or you want to come along and be on the staff team with us, it's $150. You can get the tickets on our Mankind Project website. That's mankindproject.ca, and reach out to us if you have any questions.
These processes are not a one-off. I mean, I have had men facilitate me probably more than 5 times with each of these processes, and I get something significant every time I do it. So yeah, coming back and redoing is absolutely wonderful, especially coming back as staff and redoing and helping us to create the container. Tremendous experience as well. Powerful.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say about this, it's called I group facilitation training. And a lot of guys think, well, what we're learning how to do is run our I group. That's not what this training is about directly, but indirectly, when we each go back to our own individual men's groups and we have this new slate of skills, our group by default is going to run better because we're able to help men step more into their brilliance, into their beauty, into their power, into their gold. And every group flourishes when that's going on.
Yeah. Exciting stuff. Looking forward to it. I think men are going to get a ton out of it. I know I am. I'll get another piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and I know I'll get something out of working with you again.
See you at iGroup Facilitation Training.
All righty. Friday night, be there, be square.